I just walked into a nightclub with Billy Idol one day, and actually one early one morning, about 5 a.m. And we just happened to notice David was sitting in the corner all by himself, sipping on an orange juice. And I just boldly walked over and introduced myself because I knew that he lived in the same building as a lot of the young Americans. They were all friends that I had gone to high school with, and so I just started chatting with him. And for some reason, we instantaneously hooked up because our conversation went from the young Americans and the friends we knew to jazz musicians that we idolized.
And David Bowie, was he... Well, to be as creative as him, you've got to have a vision and you've got to stick to it, right? I mean, was he difficult? Did you argue? What was your personal relationship like?
We didn't argue because I stuck to the vision. Basically, what had happened is before we wrote a note of music, we went on I don't know, a week long, 2 week long expedition journey, if you will, of music and rock and roll iconography all around the city, all around New York City. And after that, we had a very good holistic idea of the album. And then he said to me that he wanted me to do what I did best. I thought that he didn't know what I did best. And I said, well, what do you think I do best? And he said in no uncertain terms, you make hits. I want you to make a hit. And I was perplexed. I'm like, David Bowie wants a hit? I mean, you're just coming off of Scary Monsters. That's so unhit-like to me in my world. So I was a little dumbfounded, but yeah, go ahead.
So who was the teacher in this relationship and who was the student? I mean, were you teaching him how to do hits, or was he teaching you how to be the cool rock guy?
We became partners, so it was a sort of symbiotic relationship. So this is how David made me clear as to what the record should sound like. He came to my apartment one day and he was holding something sort of behind his back. I wasn't really paying attention to it that much because he would knock on my door, ring the bell, I open the door, and he had it behind his back, and he says, Nile, darling, I want my record to sound like this. And it was a picture of Little Richard in a red suit getting into a red Cadillac. And I knew what he meant. I knew exactly what he meant. I knew that he didn't want a record that went dun 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 or dun 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 dun. Good golly, miss. I knew he didn't want that. I knew that from the way that picture looked, that he wanted something that was evergreen, that would look like the future, even in the year 3050. That this would, or 30, whatever. It makes no difference what year it was. It would seem plausible that a live band could walk in and just say, hey, we just made this record today. Like today, if you heard Let's Dance, even though we may not have had a lot of the sequency type of things that you have in current music, but you could still believe that a live rock and roll band cut Let's Dance if you just heard that today. It would be believable.
Well, tell us about Let's Dance, because there's a very notable riff, a kind of catch in Let's Dance.
The first part of the riff, just the staccato, bip, 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 that's my riff. But the delay part of it was the engineer, Bob Clearmountain. And I just found out from him only a few months ago that was an accident. That we just happened to walk in the studio while he was looking for the different delay times to put on on various instruments. But he had them all going at the same time. And I heard that coming out of the guitars and the horns, and I was like, that's amazing. And he was like, cool.
Now look, David Bowie, I think, said after this album, this was his best-selling album, Let's Dance, 3 hits on it. I mean, he said it was very difficult after that to produce. It was difficult to come up with the next thing, really.
It wasn't that he couldn't come up with the next thing. It's just that I think that he expected people, and this is just my guess, that he expected people wanted him to make another big hit, but he also wanted to do it his way. And because if he wanted another one, you would think he would just call me again and say, "Hey, nah, let's dance too." But instead, he did something completely different, and it didn't quite work commercially.
Yeah. Just tell me, look, of all the things David Bowie did, apart from Let's Dance, which is the one that you best remember him for?
Oh, well, he's got too many songs that I like. That's the problem. Is that I really am a fan of David Bowie's songs. So I love the earlier stuff. So let me put this in context so you really get this. The very first time I ever heard a David Bowie song or heard of David Bowie was I met this girl in Miami Beach, and she was the photographer at this restaurant that I went to. And she says, they have a nude beach right down the road, and I'd like to spend the night there with you, and I want to play this artist that I love. So what did I say? Of course, we went to this nude beach, took off our clothes. She played, Ziggy played guitar, jamming good, and I was like, I'm done. And then Suffragette City and all that stuff, and we were just, I was like, wow, this is the coolest thing ever. I had most gorgeous girl. We're lying there naked on the beach, and Bowie is jamming away, and it was killing me. And it was like, to me, one of the most surreal, amazing moments, like hippie kind of moments you could have.